Awesome. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first ever live edition of the Game Corner. I'm Kieran O'Callaghan, as always, and I have two very good friends with me today. Gentlemen, please introduce yourselves.
I guess I'll go
Uh,
first.
yeah, why don't you go first?
I'll
That's
go
exactly
first.
what I was about to say. Mhm.
Yeah, so I'm Darragh O'Connor from the Pro Wrestling Rewind.
Yeah, and I'm Dave Stevens, also from the Pro Wrestling Rewind, and it's a great day for video games, everybody.
Yeah, look at that weather. Although I
Yeah,
suppose it'd
look
be
at that
different
weather.
for you, Dave.
But Dave's from
We
New
actually do
Jersey.
have thunderstorms. I apologize
Yeah.
if you hear
Well,
any
you guys are
during the
from New
show.
Jersey, which is like Irish. The most
It
Irish version of
is.
Oh,
America.
okay.
Yeah, so.
Hey, I'm from Ireland. We came over in 1643, so there you go. No, that's not a lie. That's actually true.
It's true. Yeah.
No, I believe you. It's just funny how like small history is in that regard. Like I think of like the US as like a young country, but like then again, as a nation, we're only 100 years old. So like it's
Less.
all
We're
relative.
80 years old.
80. How do you
Yeah.
figure that out?
Well, we became a republic in the 40s.
Oh, that's right. See, I don't know. Blame my Fenian granddad. I count it from like 1916 onwards. Like,
Oh, fair,
There.
fair, fair, fair.
You guys have more giants than we do, so I mean, you got that going.
That's fair.
oh, you're gonna have to break that down for me. Is that a wrestling thing or
Oh no, I
folklore?
mean
Or...
quite literally, mythologically, you have more
Oh, okay.
giants than we do. I mean, we have tons. They're just a Native American burial mound, so they're kind of hard to get at.
Well, that's just it, because, like, I mean, this isn't really about games, but I was playing Beyond Two Souls, and there was loads of, like, Native American ghost stuff in it, and I was like,
Mhm.
is this PC? I'm not sure how to feel about that. And then it clicked for me that, like, because America was settled, there isn't a folklore going back as far as, like, the Irish one, going, like, 1,000 or 2,000 years, like.
Hmm. Well, that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
true.
It's
But
that's read Stephen King, and that's pretty much all what he talks about, isn't it?
absolutely. Well, I mean, hey, we're finding more and more evidence that humans have been in America since maybe even up to 130,000 years ago. If you want to follow Graham Hancock's work and stuff that they found recently, so I don't know. Who knows? We
If
go
you
back.
haven't guessed already, guys, me and Dave also do a podcast, which is all about
Yeah,
conspiracy accounts
let's
from
tell
the
you
dark.
what. I'm very unconventional. Let's just get the plugs out of the way first. You guys, apart from being Nerd to Know alumni, obviously, are on the wrestling rewinds. That's it, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I believe you've actually, for people watching at home, have just finished an episode. How did it go?
Yeah, it went great. For anyone who's watching this stream, you can still see our chat, which is underneath. So if you guys are still in the chat, go for it. But yeah, it was all about the Undertaker this time around, and we're trying to plan a new From the Dark show as well. So we don't know when that's going to come out, but that's all going to be about what Dave's talking about like the Anunnaki and Watchers and ancient history that is like covered up from books and all that kind of stuff. Everything that history professors would get very upset if you brought up in classes. Let's put it that way.
It's almost like I know how to sneak things in.
Exactly. Dave's the master of plugs.
And tell me something then. Like, I know we're kind of going to get into all the gaming and stuff in a sec, but I'll go over to Dave first, because this is a show that was primarily created to check in with people about what games they're playing during the lockdown. So, with that in mind, Dave, you're based in the States. How is
Yes.
the lockdown treating you? It's weird to say that in the present tense.
Um, yeah, and it's things are getting closed back up again. Just because the size of our population is so much larger than a city state. Not that you're a city state, but you know, guys,
Yeah.
know what I mean in terms of that. It's I've been very lucky. I've been very fortunate that the job I work is considered essential. My girlfriend's job that she's worked, she hasn't lost that either. So I've been blessed in that way. But I've had many family members and friends who are out of work, and yeah, it sucks, and it's getting harder and harder, and it's like we get our hopes up that things may open and then they get pulled back, so it's a weird limbo we find ourselves in. And that's what video games, just like wrestling, is great for. It's an escape into another reality, another dimension where you can just be something else for a while and find some joy and forget about what's going on.
Well, that's exactly it. And we've been getting into, because the last guest I had on the show at the time of recording was Stevie, and we were talking about all the board games we've been playing, because like it's really fun to build something or just transport yourself to another place when you've got nowhere to go, right?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
it.
how about you, Dara? What, like, I mean, I suppose we're in a slightly different state in Ireland, but like, how has the lockdown, such as it is, been treating you?
Well, what's great about the lockdown is, doing Nerd to Know Media was great because, even though my job, nothing changed. It's exactly the same as it always was. Actually, more busy because people are buying online, so that's great for us. But it's I was able to keep busy. But what's great about it was, as Dave said, between wrestling, which never stopped, because you could kind of just forget about it and go and watch it and be pulled away from the reality, or even playing video games. You kind of have a bit more time to ingratiate yourself into things that you normally wouldn't get a chance to do. So yeah, it's it's kind of difficult to find that balance between oh my god, this is crazy what's happening now, but also like, oh, I have all this free time. So it's like trying to find that midpoint, and it's been good because I've I was lucky at the start of, before this whole thing started, I was able to pick up a Vita, and we've talked about the Vita a lot on Nerd to Know basis, Keen.
A lot.
A lot. So I started modding that at the beginning.
And yet Ellie didn't pick up the Vita in The Last of Us 2. She walked away from it. What?
Yeah, I know, right?
Wouldn't pick that up.
I'll tell you why, because it was probably the wrong firmware. That's why. If it runs the wrong firmware, you can't mod it, you can't hack it. And I've been playing a bunch of games on the Vita, on and off. So that's what I've been playing mainly. I've not stuff on the PS4, which is mainly, to be honest with you, Deus Ex and Star Wars Battlefront 2. They're basically my main games that I go back and forward to all the time.
Okay, well then, I was wondering if we were going to segue into a Last of Us 2 tangent, but we'll keep it kind of in the back pocket in case we need it, because, I mean, I suspect this may be the last show on the internet that isn't talking about The Last of Us 2. So, why don't we start with Deus Ex? For people who haven't played it, what's the deal and what's the appeal of it?
Right, so Deus Ex is the first one that kind of goes back to the 90s with Ion Storm, which, I don't know if you're into video games, you know who Ion Storm are, founded by John Romero, the guy behind Doom. It was kind of an offshoot after they left id, and they did a bunch of games, Deus Ex, Thief, alone, that people should be like, wow, that's great. But obviously a couple of games came out, and I've also broke the rule. The meme is, as soon as someone mentions Deus Ex, it gets reinstalled. So, you're welcome. But you can pick up the originals on...
Yeah, I'm so glad we did this live.
Oh,
All of the computers are just crashing at the moment.
Well, you can pick them up on GOG for very cheap. Like €2 or €3, and I think it's on a Steam sale as well. But the ones that I've been playing recently, it's the sequel to the quasi reboot remake by Square Enix. Human Revolution came out a couple of years ago, so I'm playing Mankind Divided, which came out 2 years ago, and I had the same experience that I did with Human Revolution, where I didn't really like it because of the hub world and it was different and that. And I've now played Mankind Divided 3 times through, and I'm working on trophy hunting now. Well, I've finished as much as I can go, but it's such a deep game, and the plot basically is it's set in the very near future, so 2079, and obviously augmented humans are a thing, and not only are they a thing, but they're setting up a subset of humanity, and there is resistance towards them, and they're being oppressed. And basically now they've brought off into a terrorist organization, and you play as Adam Jensen, who is an augmented human who works for Interpol and tasked to try and find out this rogue terrorist organization in Prague, and that's the plot basically.
Okay, so Interpol has survived into this future.
Yeah, well, it's our future as such. Like it's very, like, within our lifetime. 2079 is not far away compared to Deus Ex, the original one, which is 150 years into the future. So it's what I like about Deus Ex, the Square games, is it's very realistic in that it's also not, but it's like speculative future. It's fun, right? So it's cyberpunk future, but grounded, as in a lot of the technology that you see there is probably going to happen. Augmentations obviously are a thing that we're kind of probably going to have. Not us, but our kids will probably have, which is interesting. But like even the technology with single-use tablets for like newspapers and stuff like that, the actual world feels very lived in. It feels very real. So when you're going around doing these missions or trying to break up a drug ring or something like that, you're like, well, actually, even though this is in the future, it doesn't feel like I can't relate to these characters, and that's one thing that I always like about RPGs: a very lived-in world that feels real. And even with Vampire the Masquerade, which again, if you haven't played Vampire the Masquerade, play Vampire the Masquerade.
Yes, I think Saoirse recommended that a few episodes ago. Yeah,
Everyone should play Vampire the Masquerade. It's like the best RPG ever made. And it's the same kind of thing. Like it's a ridiculous world with vampires that live in LA, but it feels like a real world which you kind of slot yourself into, which has a lot of very topical themes. And Deus Ex is like that. You know, Human Revolution is a better game because its plot is a bit more in depth. It has the Illuminati and secret underground cults and cabals and all that kind of stuff that Dave and myself love getting into. But yeah, like Mankind Divided is a great follow up, and if you get it for €4 or €5 even on the PS4, I 100% recommend it. It's a great time. Play it twice and really take your time with it, because as soon as you play it once, you have to reserve ammo and stuff. But then the second playthrough, you get New Game Plus, so you're basically a god unto humans, and you can just do everything with all your augmentations. It's great.
Well, actually, you kind of answered my question there, but what I was going to ask you was, when you were talking about the game, you're talking about the world and all the details and things that could be real. So are you drawn to games that have an immersion factor then? Or is it more the combat? Because you mentioned it was a kind of a Doom type game as well.
Less of a Doom kind. Like, the mechanics are great. Like, it has, the gunplay is very good. It's a first-person shooter. But like all Deus Ex games, you can play in different ways. So you can actually play the entire game without killing anybody.
I love games like that.
Yeah,
I don't think I've played one like that since Undertale, actually.
Yeah, well, the Deus Ex series is known for that. Like, there's loads of different ways. You can go in all guns blazing, but you can also go in through espionage, through hacking and stealth and all that kind of stuff. So that's retained, and it's actually like encouraged. So what I like about it is not only the immersion factor, but also different ways to play. Every time you play that game, it's different. It's not the same way, which adds to the replayability of it. And I'm jonesing for Cyberpunk. And this
gosh.
Yeah, I know. It's
just got delayed again, mate.
I know. That's why I'm like, I guess I'm just gonna have to keep playing Deus Ex until it comes out. And that's it. You know, it's exactly the kind of game I want right now. You know, until they finish System Shock 2, that is.
See, I'm glad they're taking their time with Cyberpunk, because I'd rather A, it was a good game, and B, they didn't put people under pressure with the whole crunch thing. But at the same time, I'm getting that feeling of, like, I don't know if you've ever waited for a bus in Dublin and you see the number count down and it just disappears and it resets back up to 15 minutes. It's like that kind of experience.
See, 15 minutes is lucky for you, man. You don't live in the country like I do, where we have one
Oh,
bus an
God.
hour.
Well, I mean,
one bus an hour.
it's basically an hour with a screensaver, though.
Yeah. Or lucky enough, it's not Bus Éireann, which, you know, friend doesn't live in Ireland.
Oh God, no.
That
That
doesn't have a timetable. Just stand there and hopefully
it has a very ironic fast-running dog on the side of it.
Yeah, bus might show.
Do you guys not have cars? Like, I'm very confused on what's going on right now.
See, Dave, here's the thing: Ireland is small enough where buses are effective. You know, like cars you don't really need as such, unless you're in the country. But our cities you can kind of get around, compared to America, where a 5-hour drive is, you know, a small drive. 5 hours you get from one side of Ireland to the other.
Yeah, I see. I've never been to the US, but a friend of mine is an author, Sarah Maria Griffin. She went to, I think, California, and she wrote a book about her experiences. And she had that very Irish thing where she was like, "Oh, I'll just walk there," and got lost in all of these endless hills and streets and all that kind of stuff. And that like took up a whole 2 chapters to describe getting back. And I just cannot wrap my head around the largeness of some parts of America.
You have no reference there. That's the thing. That's the most Irish thing in the world. Like, I remember I was in California last year, and I was like, "Oh, I'll be able to go down to San Diego." I was in San Francisco. That's a 2-hour plane journey, and like a plane journey to get there. And for us, for example, it's a 2-hour bus journey, Dave, to get to certain parts of Ireland. Dublin to Belfast. So yeah, we just think, oh, it's only up the road, but no such thing as up the road. You need a car. So yeah, that's why we don't really need cars as such in Ireland, but we do. You know, it's weird.
I mean, under pressure, you could probably walk anywhere.
Yeah,
you might have to stay overnight somewhere, but you probably could.
Yeah,
it's manageable.
Yeah, that's how small Ireland is a small place.
All right, take it back. You are a city-state.
Basically, effectively, we're a tiny little country. So,
Now,
yeah.
having said that, we're like not like you've ever watched the episode of The Simpsons where they go to Ireland. It's not like there's fields in the center of Dublin.
There's one big one.
There's one big one, but it's not like trees next to the Dole. Like, well, okay, there are. Bad example. But anyway, we've got electricity. That's what I'm trying to say.
We have good internet some places.
Some places.
Yeah.
If the weather's good.
Yeah. It's ironic because we're the tech capital of Europe and our infrastructure is atrocious. It's like, what are you doing? Outside of Dublin, the further away from Dublin you get, the more and more it just isn't like current. It's weird.
I just wanted to flag that though, because like most of the Americans I've ever met have been incredibly intelligent and polite. But now and again, especially when I was doing theater, I had American like kind of students come up to me and go like, "Where do you do your shopping?" I was like, "The shop." Like they don't know where we are in terms of like grading as a country. Do you know what I mean?
No, sure. I remember I was in Islands of Adventure when I was like 17. And, you know, obviously you get talking to people in the line and stuff like that. And these lovely Texan couple, like really nice people. It was all going good. And the other way you're waiting for like 40 minutes in an amusement park or whatever. And then they just turn and go, you know, I love Darby O'Gill. And me and my dad are like, where's this going? And then they're like, yeah, leprechauns. I really want to see one. And then me and my dad are like, yeah, you can just catch one. They just run around, and he just believed it, and we're like, "Oh my god, like, this is ridiculous!" So yeah, we just start winding them up for like 25 minutes. It was funny.
Yeah, so I should stress, Dave, I don't mean to be insensitive, but
no,
like...
I love Darby O'Gill. Great.
Yeah. I wonder when it's going to get banned on Disney for being a racial stereotype.
Is it actually on Disney Plus?
Yeah, it's. I like Darby O'Gill. Actually, there is a bit. You know,
I was going to watch Knives Out tonight, but we've got a new challenger.
Oh man, you know the bit with the banshee? That's terrifying. And then with the thing that used to scare the crap out of me as a kid.
Yeah, I miss that you used to be able to put stuff like that in kids' films.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We are not talking about video games. Dave!
Yeah, video games.
What are you playing?
One of the games I'm actually playing right now, and I'm going to consider it still playing because I have about 5 hours left, is The Outer Worlds.
I must confess I haven't heard of that. Take us through it.
Okay. I was super, super excited for this one to come out because it's made by Obsidian, who made, in my opinion, the best Fallout game, which is Fallout New Vegas.
Yep.
So, you know, we were talking about RPGs and all that. This is very, very dialogue heavy, almost too much dialogue heavy, but the choices you make actually matter. There's no microtransactions. It's all about complete customization and just exploring the universe and dealing with different political factions on different planets. And you're making choices like, okay, should I go with an oppressive government that might give me more protection and blow up a planet? Or do I help the people on this planet and try and overthrow the corporate government? And it's beautifully made. It's not a AAA game, but it is AA.
It's a AA
and
game.
Yeah. And, you know, for the amount of money that they had and for the fact that everyone expected it to be, you know, based solely on dialogue trees. I mean, that's what the game is.
Well, that's what I was about
trees.
to ask. Is this kind of a map universe making thing, or is it more of a Mass Effect kind of person walking around the world type thing?
Mass Effect, but more action.
Yeah.
And not as good
action.
graphics,
Right, okay.
but only because of the money available.
I don't know if
It almost would have been a better game if they had completely left out the guns, I think.
Well, here's the thing.
Okay.
Like I love Obsidian for not so much New Vegas, even though I agree with you, Dave. New Vegas is the best Fallout game.
Oh wait, you didn't like 76?
Does anybody?
That's the game that's got nothing in it, right?
Yeah, and it wipes every time you go into it. I love Knights of the Republic 2.
Yes.
So I bought it solely for that, but it has the exact same problems as Knights of the Republic 2, where the game isn't finished. It's like half finished.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry, the modders will fix it in about 2 or 3 years. So.
Right.
Yeah, but isn't that such a fascinating thing about game culture now? You buy it knowing it's probably not finished. And I know that was okay when it was Steam and like anyone could kind of make a game. But we're expecting that from like AAA level games now.
But this isn't AAA. This is AA. That's
this is AA, yeah.
and that's it. You know, it's the same kind of thing with Vampire the Masquerade. That game is fundamental. You buy that game on Steam, it's broken. Right, it doesn't work.
I will say this isn't broken though.
So
I mean,
you have to actually buy the patch version of GOG or patch it yourself. With the Outer Worlds, I haven't played. I confess I haven't played it. I have it on my shelf sitting there since Christmas, but I've heard these criticisms before.
I've put 20 hours in. It's a 25-hour game, and I've just gotten bored. It was so engaging for the first 5 hours, and now I just feel like it's the same repetitive thing over and over again. But I mean, very bold attempts by them. And it's funny, you mentioned that we just expect games to come out with glitches nowadays. I mean, that's basically Bethesda's model at this point.
That's
16
true.
times the detail, it just works. Also, it's completely broken. Yeah. Don't worry about it. And that's why I don't mind that Cyberpunk keeps getting pushed back and pushed back, because they want it to be working, and its release is the review that it should get.
Dave, you play on the Xbox One, right?
Yeah, I play mainly Xbox One.
Yes.
Occasionally I computer, but yeah, Xbox One, yeah.
It's the one thing I hate about modern gaming. It's why I love the Vita so much, because it's all just kind of there. And why I'm trying to get a working Dreamcast emulator on the Vita, which we're waiting for. By the way, guys, Exploit of the PS4 came out today. Exciting times.
Cool.
Kernel Exploit on the PS4, so we will see what comes of that. But waiting for a working Dreamcast emulator, because I just love putting a game in and playing it and not have to wait for a 5-hour update. I went back to Battlefront 2 the other day. It took 2 hours to download the update, and then it was bedtime. I'm like, who's got time for this?
I know. I used to have that, because I used to be big into Lego Dimensions, the game where you buy the Lego figure, put them on a tray, and they pop up. Great fun. But every week it would have 2 hours, 3 hours worth of updates. And I was like, even before I had a kid, I don't have 2 or 3 hours to wait to relax. Yeah. This is the time now,
Exactly, that's it. And you just kind of want that experience to just pop in and play. Now, what I will say is, it was a big, massive update. Battlefront 2 is... the funny thing about Battlefront 2 is, when it was released, it was panned as one of the worst games ever because of the microtransactions and that, right? But they actually fixed it, and it's the best Star Wars game ever made.
Gives me hope for TIE Fighter.
Squadron?
Or Squadron, sorry, yeah.
I'm so excited for Squadrons. Because they're dropping support of it soon. And everyone was like, why are you dropping support? You literally just fixed the game. And now we know why. So it's yeah, I have hope that they've learned from it. But if you haven't played Battlefront 2 and still think it's a bad game, it's not. It's really not. They added the Battle of Scarif recently.
No way.
Yeah, I know it was in the first one, but they've actually gone back and fixed it, and they've added a lot more to it. So really enjoyable.
Well, I mean, that's kind of odd though, because not to go away from gaming again, but there's kind of hints and whispers that whole branch of Star Warsdom may not exist soon. So I would have thought they'd have swept all that Scarif stuff under the carpet quite soon.
Well, everybody likes Rogue One.
Yeah, that's true.
No, Rogue One gets the pass.
Oh no, I'm getting Scarif and Jakku mixed up. That's the problem.
No.
Yeah, who doesn't love a Star Wars movie that doesn't have any lightsabers in it? Excluding the last scene. No, my gosh, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Vader kicking ass.
I just said except for the last scene.
Yeah, but that's the best movie. It's great.
I would definitely want to see a blind guy twirling around a baton while people shoot. Yeah, no.
Hey, I watched 3 seasons of Daredevil.
That's fair.
Okay.
And also,
it's not Star Wars.
Dave, Felicity Jones is in it, and
I mean, thank goodness we learned all about the Kyber crystals. I mean, I was super concerned that all my reading about them in the EU would never make it to the movies.
But it did, and that's why I like it. That and Felicity Jones.
Felicity Jones.
Who sounds like a Star Wars character. It's so funny. It's Felicity Jones. I didn't even know that was Jyn Erso, I think is the name, but I'm just call her Felicity Jones because it sounds like a Star Wars character anyway. She was supposed to be Black Cat in the Spider-Man universe until that Spider-Man universe got shut down. Yeah, I'm sad she wasn't. I do have a lot of time for her. She's she's like a really cool version of Emma Watson. But it's funny actually. We're rewatching the old Doctor Who's, and she pops up as a background character in an Agatha Christie episode. I was like, God, you've really climbed the ladder super gradually. You never see that in Hollywood anymore. She was in The Worst Witch for years. What? I didn't know that. That's where she started off. That's where my crush started
Mad.
when I was a kid. As he was a kid, and I'm like, oh,
I watched that too. I didn't know that.
yeah, there you go. Dave, I think we broke Dave halfway through there a minute ago, but
I didn't expect
Okay,
such
you know what?
slander on Emma Watson.
I'm gonna throw the traditional formula to the wind here. I think
One of my friends is friends with
it's...
Watson. That's why I laughed. That's
oh,
it.
really?
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah. Whoa, don't
Wow.
get too excited, fellas. Calm down.
No, it's just we were talking about Small World at the start of this episode. You gotta tell this anecdote. Go on.
I'm not.
I'm not.
I'll tell you off air though.
Oh, fair. Do pass on that. I say I appreciate her, but she needs to stop talking.
If you can follow my eyebrows, there's a reason I'll talk about it off air.
You'll talk about it on air.
Can I just say I actually think she's grand. Like, just in case she ends up watching this, I like her kind of work with the UN and all that.
Yeah, I like her in what, Bling Ring? I think it's a good movie.
Oh,
Okay.
she's great in Harry Potter. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe I just tried that. I'm
Yeah.
done.
Nah.
All right,
done.
here's something less controversial. The Last of Us 2.
Oh God. Let's just go for it. Okay.
Can I actually ask, have you guys actually played it?
I haven't played the second one because I'm not going to give it money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just not.
How come?
I'm not.
Like,
I'm
I mean,
not,
I know this is a show kids listen to, but like,
Yeah, I'm
is
not-
there shady behind the scenes
I'm
stuff?
not
or-
even going to pirate it. That's how much I don't want to support it. I love The Last of Us 1. And look, I just want to say, it's not... What's happening with your one who voiced your woman is horrible. Like, death threats. It's like, don't do that. Like, these aren't real. It's a game. It's not a person, right? So don't do that. Like, that's not good.
Well, perhaps as like a time capsule, let's take a few steps back and stop me if I'm missing something out. But like, The Last of Us 2 was very, very hyped as like the sort of prestige game of the year. Came out to lots of critical acclaim. Then there was, I think someone compared it to Schindler's List. And
Yeah,
then
the
there was
director.
bullying. And then
The
like the
director,
people
yeah.
involved got bullied. Am I missing anything here? I know there's been
Yeah.
almost more stuff happening than can be reported in regards to The Last of Us 2.
So basically, it came out. It was leaked like a week or two in advance, where it was like, "Hey, here's everything that's gone down. All the leaks are right." Everybody was really upset because like it completely just went the other way compared to what was set up in the original one. Killed off main characters that people liked.
So kind of a Last Jedi situation,
Literally,
zigging where
yeah,
the first
but-
one zagged.
But
Like,
without the necessity for it, like look, I'm all for surprises and altering expectation when it's necessary. Like Last Jedi, I'll defend. Honestly,
yeah, same,
I'll
yeah.
defend, but
Yeah, we're doing another show in the future. I'm taking you two down. That's absurd.
fair.
Continue.
Okay,
Back to
booked
games.
Booked in. But yeah, I would be like, okay, look, it makes sense after The Force Awakens. But with this, I'm like, okay, there was no real reason for it. Like, the world is kind of crappy now with a real virus. And
Well, that's why I wanted to bring it up.
You know, it's
I
like-
know a lot of people were excited for this, but like we were talking about escapism at
Yeah.
the start of the show, and was the timing of this game's release wise or not?
I don't think so.
In regards to the time it's coming out in.
I don't think so. Like, and then when it came out and someone was comparing it to Schindler's List, I'm like, listen, kind of don't want to play a video game of Schindler's List, man. That's like the closest that actually happens in Wolfenstein, where you go to a concentration camp and it's really not fun. And it's like you just some points you just got to be like, look, know your audience, know your time, and pick it in a more wise direction. And I just think they just didn't do that. Then on top of it, you have all this other stuff, which might be warranted, might not be, but I think it's just people being
Yeah, what was
So-
because I'm glad, like, I mean, no one's ever glad to hear someone bring up a concentration camp, but I was thinking of what was the game that came out where you played an AI? It was kind of a David Cagey type thing. It wasn't called Deus Ex. It was, it's going to drive me crazy because I've been thinking about it for ages. But anyway, there was a game that came out for the PlayStation 4, one of those choose your way type games from the makers of Heavy Rain, where you played an AI and there was all
Human, was it?
Beyond Human,
Yeah.
thank you.
Oh, yeah,
And I know that's controversial in and of itself, but at least in that game, the AIs were sort of a emotional buffer for anything you could put your characters through as far as coding. In one of the endings, they do go to a sort of a dismantling camp, which, it's an obvious coding, but it's still a buffer.
Yeah.
So I think if you're doing speculative science fiction, you need that slight distance so you can engage with it emotionally and intellectually. do you think that The Last of Us 2 has gone too far in what it's representing, you know?
I wouldn't say it's gone too far. I just say it's more a miss. People weren't expecting it, right? It's from everything they set up in the first one. They had spent all this time building up these characters and giving you this kind of world. And look, you know, Joel wasn't a good guy. That was kind of his whole point. He was trying to deal with losing his daughter, with Ellie, and all that kind of stuff, being that kind of surrogate daughter. And he went through that journey. It was kind of like, well, what was the point, you know? And I can see the criticism of it, and I agree with it to an extent. I think there's this other direction that are like, oh, SJW, they're ruining blah 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 women. Like, yeah, stop. Those people are always going to exist, and you just don't listen to them. They're crazy. But the actual core reason for being upset is because it feels mean spirited. You know, it's like you took all this stuff that you did and then just went the other way with it for no real reason. It wasn't earned. And on top of that, then you have critics who work in the media who are like giving this the best thing ever. And then you play it, or you like the reason why I haven't played it is because I've seen the game, like it's all leaked online. What's there to play, right? And there's nothing there I can see that would warrant a 10 out of 10 score. At most it's a 5 out of 10. Now, it looks beautiful. The graphics are unbelievable, but that's it. So Dave, go on, jump in there.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, it's a beautiful looking game. I have an Xbox One, not a PS4, so I've only watched people play it on live stream, but I have watched a significant amount of the playthrough. And I mean, there's something like 10 hours of cinematics in it. It's kind of yikers on that. I mean, Joel, considering what his story was in the first one, to only get, 5-6 minutes of screen time of like actual playable. I mean, that just seems ridiculous to me. The issue is not where they went with the characters. It's that it just doesn't make sense.
That's it.
It's just these constant ex machinas of, no, you should be dead now. Like, you should be dead. This guy was about to shoot you, and then he just doesn't. Like, they're saved for no reason. They escape situations that are completely unrealistic. And it just, at a certain point, we talk about this in wrestling a lot. Cheap plug for our show, The Wrestling Rewind. But we talk about this in wrestling a lot, where once your suspension of disbelief is broken, you kind of lose your interest in the match. And that's what
because
this does.
actually, like, to bring The Last Jedi, and I know we've got conflicting opinions on it, but one of the things I think it fails in is that it bends the logic of its characters to support its themes. Now, I like its themes, but that is an immersion breaker, and it changes the way you engage with the story on an emotional level. So you're saying Last of Us 2 does that?
Yeah. I mean, it presents characters that you just don't care about, or at least as I was watching it, I just did not care about the new characters that it presented. And I'm not talking about like Ellie or Abby, like those you can get attached to, but like even at the end, they just keep throwing people at you, and it just feels like we're going to put out DLC in the future, and you get to play their story. It's like, okay, but why would I spend more money when I'm not even invested in them in the first place?
So for
like
example,
that's the disconnect for me.
For example,
there you go on there.
For example, with Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, while it's a weaker game to Human Revolution, you're still playing as Adam Jensen. You know his story, you know what he's been through. And the thing about it is they actually tie it through at the beginning of the game. They actually have a little recap to kind of get you back up to speed. So anyone who's brought in, you're like, okay, cool, this all makes kind of sense. It would be the equivalent of them killing off Adam Jensen 2 minutes in and then making you play as the person who killed him throughout the whole way, which is what they do.
if you did it the Psycho way, that could be potentially effective, but I get what you're saying. Like,
it's not what they set up. It's not the world of Last of Us is so harsh that you have formed these emotional bonds with the characters. And look, I'm not going to say that's healthy or unhealthy. You know, we all do it. The suspension of disbelief, right? It's how you connect on a human level, and that's why you get some people who are like sending death threats and stuff. And I'm like, lad, listen, if you're sending death threats for a fictional character, you really need to reevaluate.
Yeah, let's actually, in case anyone is misreading this, let's just put this out there. It's never cool to send death threats or any threats to anyone for any reason, especially not for fictional characters. It wasn't cool when they did it to like Daisy Ridley or Kelly Marie Tran or anything, and it's doubly not cool for this. Let's just say that.
To put it into perspective, there was a joke made in The Simpsons where they're like, some people write to movie stars, this guy writes to movies.
Yes.
Hi, Die Hard, you rock.
Yeah,
By
there
the
you
way,
go.
do you know Lethal Weapon? That's who you are. You're a Homer Simpson parody if that's what you're doing. Like, just stop it. Like, you know?
Taking it a little bit
It's
too seriously.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's this. This is possibly a result of the technology advancing beyond our ability to sociologically deal with it, because we are not as a species ready to be able to find Mark Hamill at the click of a button and message him. Like, do you know what I mean? It's a weird amount of power we have.
That's the great thing and the bad thing about Twitter, which we're seeing with you know, Dave and myself talked about this with your one from Harry Potter. What's her name? J.K. Rowling.
Oh,
Yeah.
J.K.
yeah.
We
You can check that out on our YouTube page.
I brought up The Last of Us specifically so we could get away from talking about Emma Watson. What are you doing?
No, but like, yeah, we talked about it on the channel. You know, what's going on there, and that's a similar kind of thing where not only as a consumer base, which is what we all are when we're engaging with media, but also as an author. Actually, we talk about her a lot on our show, Kane. Lindsay Ellis, she popped up at Death of an Author 2 yesterday, where she talks about it, and it's like, we're still kind of figuring out that balance of how we engage with people who we like, who don't like, who we disagree with, who, you know, all this kind of stuff, and it's just one of those kind of growth points where I don't know if we're going to be able to get there in the foreseeable future, because technology's only getting faster, and it's getting more and more removed. Like, even now, like, we're in lockdown where we're not engaging with people IRL. Like, I've been doing a show with Dave in some form for 10 years and I've never met him.
Yeah, and actually our technology we're using right now is an example of that. Like, we're able to be in each other's houses despite the fact we're not able to. Like, you know, I mean, I've only met you once or twice at conventions, Darragh.
Yeah, so I think, like, you know, it's like we should use awareness and caution and discretion with stuff like this, where it's just like, hey, you know what, I love wrestling, I love games, but don't harass people for no reason, you know. And at the end of the day, this stuff isn't real, right? It's not like they're a politician or they're, no, by the way, you shouldn't harass anybody in general, but what I'm saying is, it's not like it's a real thing, right, that actually affects you. Like, Joel,
politics are real too.
Politics isn't real either, right? It's a joke, but they're not. It's what Abby does, or, you know, even the actress that plays Abby, who was literally just reading her lines that somebody else wrote, is not a reason to go and send death threats to somebody. Like, she never really sent death threats to anybody, because that's really horrible. But you know what I mean? It's a weird world we're in, man, and it's only getting crazier, and we're only halfway through.
don't be the one who ruins the fun for everyone, because what happens is, like, you know, what's amazing about the way the world is now is that we can have this discourse with these creators, and sometimes that can lead to really funny things, sometimes it can lead to really interesting conversations. But if this is the backlash of something just getting popular in a very basic sense, over time we're going to go back to that model of company makes thing comes out, we like it or don't, the end. And that would be a terrible shame. Like,
I agree.
Well, and something interesting that slightly more game related, like cycling back into Last of Us, is yes, it got critical reviews. The gamer reviews were not so good, and the big difference there is that they only gave official reviewers the first 50% of the game.
See, that's
not
like,
let them have the whole game.
See, this is it. You know, a lot of the,
and there was NDAs you had to sign where you couldn't even discuss it. So streamers had to make a decision: do I give my review on this game, or do I wait a couple weeks and give a review when it's already been bought? I mean, it sold what, like 4 million, 8 million copies. It was like the best-selling PS4 single player of all time.
That's true. And another aspect is because speaking of Lindsay Ellis, I'm a huge fan of Todd in the Shadows, and one episode what he did was he compared reviews of an album that came out at the time to reviews now, and what he found was that because they were wrong about Oasis, say, or whatever, because critics got Oasis wrong when the third album came out and it was bad, they didn't want to seem like they were getting their own criticism wrong, so they gave it a brilliant score. And because of The Last of Us, I'd say a lot of critics were keen to view it favorably, so they didn't look like they were out of step, you know?
Oh yeah,
it's like it's not me, it's the kids who are wrong, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
but it's weird. Like, I think that's the biggest like even we're running a media thing here where we engage with media all the time, and you know, as someone who's worked in the media, it's interesting to kind of see that, because I remember when there was that kind of that's always been there, right, where you wouldn't say X, Y, and Z because you wouldn't get a review copy, or you'd have to do this and the other. But I think that's very antiquated now because the world is so immediate, right? So now personally, I would always just give my review. That's why Fozzie blocked me, because I'm just like, I
was going to mention it. You beat me to it.
Yeah, I'm going to say whatever I want. So yeah, I'm not one of those people who just kind of sits back. But with the media now, I'm like, lads, you really got to think about this, because you're either going to game media, like with Jim Sterling talks about this all the time. Either you're gonna follow this corporate press release to the point where you make yourself redundant, and that's kind of what's happened here with this Last of Us. There was so much to criticize, and this is what really bugged me about all the idiots going out and doing ridiculous stuff for picking up on this.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm not even gonna get into it, but there's so much to criticize in Last of Us and its practices around how it was released alone that you have something to stand on. And then there's other stuff that just there isn't. So I'm like, lads, look, learn from this. If you're going to make a bad game, it's a bad game. Stand over it and do what EA, the great evil EA, went and fixed their game. You know, from criticism. Naughty Dog, you're not above criticism.
No, and I think one of the biggest issues out of this that came was the fact that certain segments, if you guys know what we're talking about, you know what we're talking about. There's reasons we're not saying it. So people focused on just that aspect of it as a criticism for the game, when there are 1,000 other things that you can criticize the game for that are actually legitimate. But because that's where the focus is, if you say something negative about it, then it's, oh, well, you don't like it because of X, Y, Z. I mean, it's very Last Jedi, actually, where it was, no, you don't understand. I don't like the way they changed the lore of Star Wars and the canon. I was not expecting the pushback from Disney and the directors and such to be, no, you don't like it because you're racist and sexist. Like, what? What are you talking about? That's not why I didn't like the movie.
And that's kind of it. You know, it's like this weird kind of Orwellian doublespeak where it's like there are legitimate criticisms, and then this other group just appears and is just like, you know, saying ridiculous things which has no basis in reality,
right?
And then that's what's run with, and that's what's kind of happened with The Last of Us. It's weird, man. It's, you know,
I think just to kind of put a bow on this discussion, like, I think we're going to have to learn how to have a discourse again, because I won't get too political, but that's just gotten lost in the last 4 or 5 years. Like,
look, Dave and myself are both libertarians, right? And we scream for the center. And the fact that there's no center anymore it's bleeding into culture now, where it's like you can't discuss anything because everyone has a stake in it, and you know, we're just like, hey, this is not okay.
And on a psychological level, we need to, like, and this kind of goes back to the whole, you know, death threats to actors and things. We need to disentangle ourselves from the things we support and the things we like. If someone doesn't like the thing you like, they don't dislike you personally. And I know that sounds obvious, but I do see that bleeding into the way people discuss things critically. Like,
well, that's because now it used to just be, oh, I don't like X. Okay, cool. Now it's with the same passion of furor of politics, where it's just like, oh, how dare you support that person. Now it's, how dare you support that brand, which is silly. You know, it's like, we're all in this to have fun and escape, you know, and games are the great way to do it. But again, if only we could go back to the days of the Dreamcast, lads. Those halcyon days.
Well, we are just hitting time now, so that was a fantastic discussion, guys. Very well done. Is there anything you want to plug before we wrap?
I'll let Dave go first.
Oh, gee, thanks. You know what? We host the... I can't believe you threw that on me. We host the Rewind, Darragh and I do the Wrestling Rewind. It's a live. Y'all are in Ireland. It's on Phoenix FM every Tuesday night. Or you can find it on nerdtoknowmedia.com. tons of links. We're literally on every platform, iTunes. It's impossible to miss us. If you want to find us, we like to go into the past and talk about things and just escape into what's good. And also, hey, if you want something else that's fun to escape on, I'm also a juggler. So follow me on Instagram. If you're watching me on video here, my finger's kind of pointing at it. It's at @TheDaveStevens. You can see some videos. It's fun stuff. And yeah, follow me on Instagram, not Twitter, even though it's the same handle.
Excellent. And over to you, Darragh.
Yeah, so I'm just going to back that up. Nerd to Know Media is where you can find all of our stuff. We do a show pretty much every day of the week. If we don't, there's other kind of clips. Myself and Dave do the rest of Rewind, but myself and me, Kane, we do a Nerd to Know Basis, which is on Wednesday and Saturday on Phoenix FM. And yeah, buy my album. Horrenda released an album last Friday.
Still keeping up that superliminal marketing
exactly,
there, yeah?
Go over to Bandcamp, Horrenda, and buy the album. We need money. So yeah, go for it.
Okay, guys, thank you so much. We don't usually go into the gaming industry side of things on this show. I think the last time we did was when we had Keith on. So thank you so much for this. I hope you guys had a good time, yeah?
Absolutely. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah. Excellent. Well then, this has been the Game Corner on Nerd to Know Media, live for the first time ever. It's been nice to show off my beard for those seeing us on YouTube. So I will see you next Friday here at the same time. Thank you so much. Goodbye.